So moving on, I'm a hacker. I always have been and always will be. And the reason why I'm doing this little section here is because a lot of the people who've been listening are technical guys, programmers, and computer specialists or professionals, and they're asking me about my past. Now, I'm an IT, what they call an IT professional. I've worked in IT, or did do for my main income in my life, but I've only worked a third of my life, and most of that is because I'm not into money, never have been. I need money like everyone else. Some people find it a hard concept. I say I'm not into money. How do you eat? And shut up. I need money, of course, but I don't need excess money. And for all of those of you who say, "Oh, but you've got to save," I know you save, and then when you reach a certain amount, you just go and spend it anyway. And as far as saving and spending goes, I've got such a low limit. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to save some money. As soon as I hit 500 quid, I'm like, I can buy something for 500 quid cash, and I'll go and buy it. So, like, because of my profession, I've always earned a really high salary. And due to that, if I get a high salary, even on a 1 year contract, I don't work for the next year and a half. I just spend the money until it's gone. I've always done that. And I've had some jobs, in the past which lasted longer than that, which weren't in IT. But typically in IT, I can get a 3, 6 or 12-month contract, which throw money at you. They typically pay you double what they pay their permanent workers. And the hourly rates, this is if it's on a set rate, but if you get a good hourly rate, between 25 to 80 pounds an hour, then, what you earn in a week, you can have this fantastic life and you've still got too much money left. So I never used to spend money. I used to just work and work and work, because in a lot of IT jobs, it's not 9 to 5 and finish. At 5 to 5, the computers aren't working. You're there till 9, 10 o'clock. So I just worked for the whole year with my head down, and then at the end of that, you put your head up. You're like, wow, and you've got a mountain of cash, which means you can set up and help other people, do projects, go travelling, and do all those things that matter for the world, or your immediate surroundings. And for me, because I don't like money, but I love fun, I typically spend that and have a good time and make sure that I support other people and support other projects along the way. But getting back to the hacking, I am a hacker, and as I said, I always have been and I always will be, because hacking for me isn't just about claiming a title. It's about doing and being one. And I came into hacking what I'd say was the first generation of British tech hackers, and that was in the 80s, in the mid 80s, 1984, 85. I got into computers slightly before, but the hacking, I would say I was always a hacker, but I was hacking other stuff. Because as a hacker, I think it's who you are and what you are. It's not about just, because I do computers. Social hacking, social engineering is part of hacking anyway. But just taking things apart to make them work faster, to repair them, to make them work differently than they're supposed to, and so on. That's all hacking. And I was always good at that. So when the computers came along, all it meant was I've got a new toy to play with, basically. But I looked at it and thought, this is marvellous. And when you understand how they work and what they do, I thought, I can never get bored of this, because I can never know it all. And I'll make this my profession. So I just took it on. So, it was early to get into computers in the early days. There weren't much password protection and so on. And the way systems were built and the way programs worked, you could easily break in. And I got very clever at it. I learned the computers down to noughts and ones, which meant that if someone thinks their computer program's really clever, I've got this password and it's got this really, convoluted method of checking a password. At some point, because of the way computers work in binary, the computer has to say to itself at one point, switch this 0 to a 1 to say this is true. And you look through the program and look to the way it's talking to the chips on the motherboard and so on, and no matter how complex the security, at some point it has to say yes, it has to say this is true, and that's what you go look for and you find. Now, I was a very good hacker, and I wouldn't put myself at the highest level, because there's some people who are rocket scientist hackers. For instance, if you're aware of programs such as Photoshop, they've got their own virtual machines inside and so on, and to break the code on that is rocket science, and it requires a team. I don't think any single hacker's ever cracked programs like Cubase or Photoshop, but you get other programs which are high level down to the freeware. I always used to break those, and also breaking the systems, and they call that cracking a lot of the time. But I could do both, and I put them both under hacking. It's an ability, because the term actually comes from hacking on a keyboard. You hack away, and it was ascribed to journalists. But the hackers adopted the computer guys, because we was on the keyboards all the time. way behind America, but we've made really good acquaintances in America, and we learned about that through them. So I'll be doing more on hacking. I've got a three-part show coming up, and for you people who, the tech people who will be interested in it, I'll go in depth on me. No real giveaways. Talk about some of my exploits and some of the areas that I worked in. I was on the front page of the Telegraph, and I was in every computer magazine that came out in the UK from 1995 to 98, and talk a little bit more about my life and how I see hacking then and now.
You not heard of the OBG? Big people talk, man. You need to get involved. You might even catch a blessing.